Merry Christmas, to everybody. I know I said this the last time I started my recording on Twitch. And to be honest, I think I had a great time starting off my new character in a way that I really wanted to start my character off. It's unfortunate I didn't choose the stats or the start off with what you would consider to be a cleric in the game. The first time I played Dark Souls, I started off with the Pyromancer. Why Pyromancer? I don't know. Access to some sort of magic, and still has the ability to wield a sword and swing and whatever other feats that I can use. If I can use a sword, that's good. I mean, that's the only thing a soldier really has, and his strength, and then you just gotta work from there, right? So a little less strength, a little more, playing with fire, Anyway, that's the character I chose, and it was a first good run for me. It was hard. Let me not say it was hard. It's challenging. It's challenging. And when I sought help, I got it, and I made it through the game. And then I found out about the Dark Souls community that was actually on PlayStation, which they took away. I don't think it's stupid that they took it away. I think they're just trying to switch people over to PlayStation 5. Maybe there's communities over there, and that's where they went. So it's kind of their way of, getting people off of this system and onto another. Anyway, I want to keep you guys held up with the bull crap, right? But so it's about Dark Souls Lost. So I start off this character. It's a new game plus. I didn't start clean. I wanted the advantage simply because I wanted to be able to hack and slash through the game without having too many restrictions as I continue to play this game. Now, probably wondering, like, okay, so what's the significance about this game? What's the what's the whole big thing about this game? Some people come to play Dark Souls just simply because they love the PvP. That's kind of what a lot of people got hooked on, and playing PvP and stuff like that. Not for me. Not for me. Nope, not at all. So it was the storyline. The gameplay was good. Don't get me wrong. The storyline is really good. That's the reason why I'm actually doing these videos. They convoluted it, and the people who did these YouTube videos give you little lore and little information. It doesn't fully explain. It's done at its best capacity, I guess, that they could produce. But I just feel like they're just going along with the whole setup of not really telling everybody everything and just kind of leaving them out there with what's going on in this game and how things are really going on. I mean, you can make all different types of speculations, about what happened in this game, and you'll be left to believe everything else that everybody else has been saying that's popular to listen to, and it's only just merely another fragment to get you looped in. Go a little bit deeper, you'll find a little bit of happiness because there's nothing more intriguing about seeing a fragment of something that looks bigger and you're trying to get the whole picture. Most people just run through the game because they like the gameplay. They're not concerned about all these swords. They already know all these swords is all the dead warriors they probably lost to them, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's an obvious statement. It's clean, cut, clear, you know. But the stories is what I really go for. The stories is what really pull me to games. That's just my whole thing. Anyway, so let me just kick into the games. Let's kick this shit into gear, shall we? So I made it all the way here, and you can find my video on Twitch if you want to catch up to where I'm at. You know, as I'm kind of uncovering or new discovering or just going through the game to figure out what's really going on and who's what and what's what and why certain people are doing certain things. What are their connections to other people in other places? Whatever. However. Anyway, I'm already taking up too much of your time. But it's for good reason. Okay, it's for good reason. So this is Hargoth, I believe his name is. No, Gothard. Black Hand Gothard. And you know, this particular Black Hand apparently can be summoned as, you know, a phantom. Now, people who are alive in Dark Souls, you can't just summon them like they are already undead. I mean, like they're not undead, or maybe they are undead. When you think about it, the game is based on the living, the undead, those that were alive, that ended up figuring, you know, people end up dying, they turn into things, maybe. They don't know. But the curse mark was put on the people by Gwen, and people are dying and people are waking right the fuck back up at a bonfire, to remind them of, you know, they have to keep this whole thing going. And it's like, no, you really don't want the thing to keep going. You kind of want rest at this point. And, you know, I don't think Gwen was really thinking about the people's interests when he did a selfish act of putting a mark on the people to keep the Age of Fire alive forever. And therefore, the human pygmies, you know, will be the ones, mind you, that will be used to keep the Age of Fire going. Which means basically, you know, no rest for the dead. No rest for the dead. That sounds, to me, that sounds pretty crazy in a way. Maybe the rest can sleep. You know, when they're actually gone and there's darkness. Maybe they can, I don't know how you want to put it. But how will they rest? You know, when we close our eyes to go to sleep, to shut down our consciousness of this living body. And here comes Gwen, keeping the lights on. How would you like always sleeping with the lights on? Right? We just close our eyelids and go to sleep. Right? Like, I don't care, I can go to sleep in the light. Right? And we do, because that's why we have these eyelids. So that way we can actually shut off and turn off. Not to say that this thing is has clipped their eyelids, but The dead have to lose their mind to fully lose their soul. Give up on life completely, and their body continues to go on. They can't die. They just keep coming back, and there's no rest, I guess, for them. But you be seeing soldiers sleeping, or maybe just passing out, you know, instead of continuing to go on. I mean, that's what you see throughout the game. You see some soldiers get caught sleeping, and some, you know, they just wander or leave. Maybe they don't necessarily leave their area, but you'd imagine after a while that, you know, there will be a certain level of consciousness that would tell them to leave, right? And the last thing they remember doing when they come back alive is that, okay, I've resurrected, and I am supposed to protect this castle from any undead from coming over here. Protect the castle, and they just kind of get caught in that loop and just moping around in the same spot because they've lost whatever mind they had, you know, because their body's slowly rotting. Some won't. Some will wake up not fully intact, but, you know, they'll keep rising. And some are rising from the ash, so they call them Ashen Ones, you know, because that's, you know, that means the fire, you know. At first it was the I forgot what they called them in part 1, and then now in this one, in part 3, they're the Ashen Ones, where the fire will spark up back in their corpse. And, you know, basically just like in part 1, they will seek souls, and the more souls they have, the stronger they become, the you know, and then, you know, they can reverse their hollowing so they don't look dead through, you know, sacrificing souls to the gods. That's what you do with Velka. She requires, you know, she's banking off of the situation too. Be like, yeah, you have a remedy to their problems, and this is all supposed to help the cause that you and your brothers had did with I keep on want to call him Zeus because it's the same thing almost. Not exactly, but Gwen. And, you know, when you hear getting all this power back too, all these souls back, right? People, these dark souls are coming up from the spark. You know, there's things in the description that I'm definitely gonna go through with you guys as I continue to play through the game. You know, for all those who decide to watch my rants and my whatever you want to call it on YouTube. First, I want to say thank you for even listening, and 2, I'm gonna give it to you raw. Like, we're gonna get to the bottom of all this shit. Excuse my French. We're gonna get to the bottom of all this stuff. PG. Gotta keep it PG. So I apologize to the parents. I want to see if your kid is watching good content, and they are. So that way they don't have to play this game. Just hear the story. And I keep my curses to a minimum. Promise. Because this is not that type of platform, and curses shouldn't be said. They shouldn't. You know, they should be said way less. They shouldn't be said at all. In fact, you don't want to curse over your life. And words are spells, right? So, coming back here, talking about the spark, what you would consider the spark of life, or whatever you want to call it, because fungus grows out of, is the first thing to grow large out of something so small. And I was thinking about that just now, you know, and where electricity comes from, uh, lightning, what they would consider it, you know, that spark of life, and then where fire might, you know, where does fire come from and all this, and we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. But sorry, I digressed. Just talking about some extra stuff. So here we got Black Hand Gothard, and he's one of the Black Hands. So there's 3 Black Hands to be exact. We're gonna let's bust that open real quick. Let's go to the rings. All right, so here we got the Knight's ring, the Scholar's ring, and the Priestess. Right? Oh, they're all white, 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 white. Right? Because they're right under the king. They're doing what people should be looking at as the most noble thing to do. It's the Priestess. Look, it says a ring engraved with a portrait of the High Priestess. Obviously, this is a female. Increases faith. In Lothric, the High Priestess has long been considered one of the 3 pillars of the king's rule. Okay, the High Priestess also serves as the prince's wet nurse. So she took care of the princes. We know this for a fact because it's written. And in Lothric, the High Princess has long been considered one of the 3 pillars. That's our next thing that's very important, because the next would be, and mind you, I'm working from the bottom up. A ring engraved with a portrait of a scholar, increased intelligence, increases intelligence. So you know he deviled in magic, unlike her, where she deviled into, you would say, miracles. So we got miracles and we have sorceries. Okay, a ring engraved with the portrait of a scholar increases intelligence. In Lothric, the scholars has long considered one of the 3 pillars of the king's rule. Mm. Sorry about that. I had a moment just now. My thoughts had swung around into the attention of something else. Um, and yeah. So something I gotta deal with later on today. Very. It doesn't have importance, but I was just thinking about something as I played. You know, certain things just happens, and you just gotta like give it some sort of thought, if you will, and then address it. So, pull this over here. So, going back to what I was talking about. In Lothric, the scholars has long been considered one of the 3 pillars of the king's rule, and is therefore master of the grand archives. Now, there was something I was reading in another description that came from a magic that talked about a regal archives or whatever. So I mean, we don't know if they're the same type of archives, right? They said regal. Regal and grand don't really mean the same. Regal kind of means of. The wordplay is different. So I was kind of sort of going through that whole process and trying to just break that aspect down. You know, hold on. Going back, see if I can pull it up for you guys real quick. Okay. Define regal, resembling or fit for a monarch, especially in being magnificent or dignified. And it was regal archive. So I mean, you put those words together however you want to put them together. Of archive, resembling archive, or fit archives, especially in being magnificent or whatever. So I guess you would say with the word regal in front of it would mean something magnified or dignified, being magnified. I mean, how do you put that next to the word archives? Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, that's another one of them, right? And then we go on, right? So we go forward. Go over here. Ring engraved with a portrait of a knight, right? In Lothric, the knight has been the knight has been has long been considered one of the three pillars of the king's rule, and were thus allowed to rear dragons, right? So, ring engraved with a portrait of a knight, increasing strength in Lothric. The knight has long been considered one of the three pillars of the, okay, so I'm reading it over. Okay, so it's the knight, the priestess, and the scholar, right? And those are the three pillars. But then we have one over here. It says the ring engraved with a portrait of a hunter increases dexterity. And dexterity is fast moving, paced, nimble, if you will. To do the slide slither shit. So, hunters served Lothric on the fringes and the shadows for generations. Rulers of Lothric have relied upon, especially upon the Black Hand hunters, to punish enemies in ways that the king's three pillars could not. So, I mean, these were hired assassins that the kings had. They call the pillars, the three pillars. Punish them in ways that the three pillars could not. Now, so you don't say that there's three of these guys up here. So it's like, well, what am I talking about the three of, right? So there's three here, right? The knights, the scholars, and the priestess, right? So that symbolizes a group of individuals, if you may. There's always going to be one that's above all of them, that is basically talking over the rest and dealing with them, right? Just like it would be in the Knights. The Knights has a general, whoever that general may be. It may be Smo, it might be the other one, Go, not really Go. I forgot the name of the Dragon Knight Slayer. I forgot the name of him, but anyway, point is, right? Increased strength, dexterity, intelligence, faith. So these three. So faith, I mean, obviously they would have some sort of divinity, right? That's a priestess, like, that would be seen over the churches and the faith. And it shouldn't necessarily be just a woman, but that, acknowledging that aspect alone can open up doors and ideas when it comes down to dealing with Darksouls. Because really in the Cathedral of the Deep, he's praying to the Lady of the Forlorn. I don't know what the Forlorn is. I'm still gonna break that down. I mean, Forlorn can, unless it is a title that is specifically set directly to what they're talking about, or if someone else is also praying to the same God of the same thing, then there is none, like how do you say, wow, I just realized, stop stealing. Alright, sorry about that. So it's like I was saying, so there has to be some level of hierarchy there, okay, to oversee and control, till it gets down to a very small one person, because there's greater ideas that are compiled onto this to control how the system is working, like a pyramid scheme. But anyway, somebody's at the pinnacle, and at the end of the day, somebody like Aldridge is like the president. And the deacons of the deep is like the government, and then there's the woman, right, that's behind the scene, like the Statue of Liberty is ruling New York, to woman, or whatever, behind the scenes type of shit. You know, since when do men put sculptures up of women, you know, as a symbol of justice, right? In Greece, there was just a lot of men, right? They drew men and stuff like that. And, you know, it's just different cultures, you know, and they do different things, but you gotta pay attention to it. In this case, we were talking about the priestess, right? And in this case, you know, he's praying to the forlorn. He's not praying to the deacons of the deep to give fire. Her statue's right behind the deacons of the deep. You know, you know, big ups to the other guys who make other videos. They give like little hints here and there and stuff like that. But, you know, you guys, if you maybe you guys knew already, you know, everything I'm saying. That's cool. You know, but let's talk about it. You know, because I didn't even pay attention to the fact that there was a woman behind in the statue, of course, form. She's all over the chapel, if you will, or cathedral, if you will. You know, she's all over the place. You know, so you really like, unless you literally are not paying attention to the details in the game, you can't miss her. You know, you pay attention to the little details, you're gonna definitely see it. If you're not paying attention to the details, you're just running around, opening doors and stuff like that, and just walking through, looking for your next enemy in certain boards, knowing how to get through when you bump into certain enemies. You're not really paying attention to the beautiful, horrific story of what's the reason why the game exists in the first place. Sometimes you don't even know what to look for. Everything just kind of looks like something. It just looks good. It has a purpose, but the purpose ain't that serious. It's all about running around and just doing PvPs and shit like that, which, you know, it's cool too. It's cool too, you know, because it is fun. It is fun, you know. But the story, it's the story for me, if you will. It's the story for me. I was just thinking, wow. So anyway, I had another brain fart there for a minute. My mind just keeps drifting off into thinking about something else that my mind shouldn't be on. I wasn't expecting it, but I did take a little something tonight to make me feel good, so I am feeling good. And I guess my thoughts are just drifting off into other things, and I should focus on Darksouls 3. So they're praying to somebody there, right? You know, they're definitely praying to somebody there, and you got what? Intelligence up here, right? And this intelligence is ruled by whoever's running, you know, running the show. Who's running the show? You know, here's where a lot of the hierarchy, if you will, really started to break down in the heavenly realms. The infiltration, it was almost bound to happen, and you know, we'll continue to get deeper into that, because it's not like it went over everybody's head. It kind of did, but it just goes so much deeper than what people really see in the game. And I know it's pretty accurate. I'm looking for someone to challenge my perception on this game as far as how the story is unfolding, how I continue to play through it and stuff, all the things that they left out. So let's just jump right in. Alright, so the Knight's Ring. So now the Knight's Ring, right? So there has to be some sort of knight. So we're talking about Ornstein or Smo. Okay? It's either one of those guys, right? And you know, when you those are like the top generals, if you will. Or they're not the top generals. Maybe they are, one was closest to the first You know, he had to have his generals and lieutenants, right? So Schmo could have been a general, and the other one was a lieutenant, you know, or maybe something, I don't know. But obviously, the older son, right, that they keep saying is the nameless king, is, you know, is that's him. He's the nameless king. And I don't know, like, does it matter to me? Does it play a really big thing? I'm still trying to figure out, you know, the whole thing with this dude's armor being nice and neatly laid out on the ground for you to just pick up. And there's different speculations, you know. There's only one that we can really think of that makes the most sense, is the fact that, you know, whenever you're going to do a transformation into a dragon, you take off all of your armor and turn into a dragon. But there's so much more than we really have to take into perspective. And we can definitely leech off of part 1 if we wanted to. And we can say, yeah, you defeated Smo, and you defeated whatever his name is. And after you defeat him, he comes back because he becomes an undead, like a lot of people are, right? And then maybe can't live with himself. Maybe does live with himself. Maybe understands that he can still fulfill his duty. Or maybe he should do something else. But what happens when somebody comes through like yourself, who's looking to do the will of your father, of the father? Why would I have to kill you in part 1? What exactly are you keeping me from if I'm doing the will of Gwen? Why would I need to fight you? Nobody really thinks about that aspect, because the undead look like what? Enemies to Gwen? How? They know their task. Their task is to go after the Lord Descender, or whatever it was in part 1, which is basically to go and restore the light, defeat Gwen, so you could become the next Fire Lord or whatever. But look at all the people that you taken out. You had to go and kill his brother. You couldn't find the sister, but you found her daughters. You know, you found the Chaos Seabed. Maybe the Chaos Seabed did kill her. Or maybe she transformed into that. They don't really talk about that, but we could talk about that on this channel. We could talk about it, because I have ideas about that I know this. It's not that it's untestable. It's testable, but you gotta come correct. You better know your stuff. You better know, because you know, and you know, convince me. I'll let you. I want to see your angle. I want to see it. I'm not going to squeeze my world into it. I'm just going to ask if you can see what I see and how you see things. Like, does it make sense? You know? So, anyway, here you got this ring. So there's other people that are under it. We were talking about Smo and whatever his name is. I forgot his name. And he went after the first king. I mean, the nameless king, which is Gwen's first son. That's how they keep saying Gwen's first son, not his name.
Gwyn's first son, and then they have somebody called the Nameless King. Then they have an armor, right? Because mind you, the hint is he is a god of war. With the war with his father, they call the Nameless King or Gwyn's son the god of war. In a foreign land, there is a god of war whose name was after was who the armor is named after. So we know his name now. At least over there, that's what they called him. You know. So I don't think it changed much. Ain't much time passed. So it would be that that's his name. You know, Faram. You know, and Faram is not too far away from, you know, Farron. Well, yeah, no, I'm reaching. Anyway, so yeah, so you have Faram, the first son, and let's just plug it in. Let's just plug it in. You know, let's talk about these things in the light in which we see them. Some people might go, well, it says that the armor is from a distant land, and that, you know, that's their god of war who they worship in Ferosa. Okay? What is the coincidence that there's two god of wars close by to another tribe? Oh, they just made up this type of god of war. Maybe over there they just still believe in him, and that's where the armor set comes from. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's different, right? But let's work with what seems the most obvious without tearing it down, right? Because if it doesn't fit somewhere along the lines, science is going to show us like this doesn't make sense somewhere along the way, you know. So let's just take what we got. So, you know, so it's Faram, right? And you know, it's Faram. You know? And I mean, it is what it is. You know, he's got other knights under him. Smo is under him as his general. To me, that's got to be the general. He's the biggest dude. Not that he wasn't, you know, he could have been like the dumb, right? Ooh, but he's strong and he knows how to take orders. And then you got, you know, the guy who's following. Oh shoot! Oh, folks. Sorry about that, folks. So, all right. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So, basically, I'm taking this apart, and from the looks of it, I mean, I haven't really moved off of the screen. I should be moving around. The problem is that I still have to choose between I do want to go in, I want to get it going and stuff, but I just take this time out to really look at what I got and what I picked up in this area and what it meant. So before I continue on, this is what I do. Alright, so get used to it. So the Knight's Ring. So, you know, anybody who's in Lothric, and you know, they fall under that. They rear dragons, just like their prince did, you know, and that's what he did, and they were given the honor to do so. They carry this banner, which I carry around with me, which is the which is dope because it's a war, it's a magic war banner, and it helps boost stats, which is cool. So it's the Lothric, banner, whatever. So Lothric is important too, right? But anyway, that's what I was saying. So there's other people that are under him, and eventually people are gonna fall in line right under the king, right under the knights, right? And there's many of them. So you only really think about the top individuals who's running the show in all of these matters. Again, who would definitely be running the show over here in the scholars? We don't know. We're still trying to figure that out. Who are the crystal sages? There's an idea that I picked up from here, which explains who just might be the crystal sages. And it's like, well, how is that in connection to the grooves here in the forest? You're not nowhere near the Grand Archives. No, I'm far from the Grand Archives. But in this game, you gotta pick up on the clues and when you hear certain things and how they correlate with each other. So the faith would be run by a woman, right? And this woman was running the church. They had the women running the church. Was it always like that for all of them? Maybe, maybe not. But I tend to think so. As I'm speaking to you right now, I am unfolding everything in my mind so that I can tell you about my findings at the very moment. Because everything is starting to make sense. Alright? So you have the priestess. Where do they run behind? Right? What's their whole thing? Look at this. High priestess, this is the last sentence. High priestess also served as a prince's wet nurse. Let me just take some time out, right? Because I'm pretty sure wet nurse is the nurse that comes in and changes you and cleans you all up, right? So I'm gonna type that in real quick. Wet nurse, right? Woman employed to suckle another woman's child. Okay? So, this woman, we don't know who the priestess was, but she had to come in and give her breast milk to the child. Why wasn't the mother doing it? Right? Why wasn't the mom doing it? But that's not right. That's not the. We're not gonna exercise the idea of that. Try to stretch it out. We're not gonna see if we can make something out of that, right? No. And Lothric, the High Priestess, has long been considered one of the 3 pillars of the king. She's a pillar of the king's rule. The High Priestess who serves as the prince's wet nurse. She nursed him. Who would that woman be? Who would the woman be? Who's running the church right now? Oh, that's right. We went to the church to check Aldrich. We end up going to the roof. Alright, to get in to see the mother. And who's the mom? Who's the mom? Right? Who's the mom to Aldrich, maybe? He ain't a slug, but what the hell is she pumping out? There's a lot of speculation about this game. It could be anything that we put our minds to. At this point in time, I could tell you this much. When it came down to this woman's serve in the church. Is she the same woman that you see when you go to the cathedral? Why not? Why not? Why not? What other person would that be? What other person would that be? Having a child like that from something else. Aldridge wasn't always like that, supposedly. You know? And I'm not saying that that's his mom, but it seems like it seemed like that to me. Like, why does the door look like it's been ripped open? They were trying to get in. They couldn't get in. You know, I never been upstairs there to see if now mind you, I haven't even gone after Aldridge yet. Aldridge is in Anne Orlando. You know, like right now in my game, that's where he would be, because he's not at the cathedral. The gate to her room is open. And then the question beckons. Was Aldrich trying to get out or trying to get in? They tried to make it seem like in the video I watched like he was trying to get in, maybe. I don't know. The mass size of it. It could be that you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be that it was Aldrich. What the hell do they have these giants protecting them from what? You know, it's like they captured these giants, put them inside of a church, and chained them somewhat. Makes you almost feel bad in a way. Because, you know, giants, they're strong, but you would wonder, well, if they're strong, why didn't they just beat their way out of the Cathedral of the Deep? Even if the shit crumbles on top of them, like, try to fight for your life. You know, they just never really mustered up enough strength to get out. Because, you know, the Cathedral of the Deep is built thick, if you will, you know, almost in mountain, so it will be almost impossible for them to kind of beat their way out of stone like that thick, you know. Maybe over time, you know, and they're inside of the castle, so it's like there's no exit for them. So you got three of these giants trapped in a mountain. It's like, how did you even get them in here? There is no virtual way possible that they opened the earth and closed it around the freaking things. How did you get the giants in the earth? There is no entrance, there is no exit. It is built around them. And it's like, and it's stuck there forever. It's like jail for them, you know. When I think about the cathedral area, I just think of it as a means of protection, perhaps, because if they did have a means to get in, nothing in that church is destroyed. This shows that anything and everything where they're at in the very place has its same structure, if you will. The only place that looks off, okay, the only place that looks off is where you're about to go to when you're about to actually face off with the deacons of the deep. There's like the centerpiece that is like knocked off its thing. I don't know. It just looks like It either looks like it's been crunched into the earth, or it was just kind of picked up and it dropped down in a way, and just the little bottom back part kind of just broke, so it's slanted. I don't get that, because out of all the other places in the castle, when you look around, well, in the cathedral, when you look around, it's only that area alone that has like broken. This almost seems like a very large, dedicated altar in a way. And maybe that when they knew it was desecrated, they had to desecrate that to break the divinity to that place, I guess. You know, I don't know. But whatever the deacons of the deep got hit with, it was because of Aldrich. You know, I don't know who the priest is, that the main priest is in the deacon of the deep. There's no name listed above them. They're just deacons of the deep, and they all just kind of resurrect, and or whatever keeps coming back, and they keep trying to come at you to kill you, and then finally you start seeing the spirit jump around, so you gotta like go to different bodies and so forth and so on, so you can beat them. Yeah, but the deacons of the deep, like, how did they get messed up like that? Messing with soul dregs, you know, souls, playing with souls, you know, then possibly playing with dark souls, which are dregs, you know, and dark. We're not even gonna say dark souls are dregs, because at least when you see the dark soul, you see it float. When you see the dark soul, you see it float. They say the dregs they're like gravitating to like the ground, like they sink to the lowest depths of your soul. So they have like this down pull kind of thing going on. And when you look at a dreg, the picture of the dreg actually looks I'm looking for a dragon here. Like, why would I be looking for dregs in here? Right? I would find dregs over here. There's actually a magic for it. So I already named that aspect. What else can show you? Oh yeah, here it is. So, proof of duty fulfilled by Aldrich's fate, who patiently wait the devourer god's return. Dregs are the heaviest things within the human body. Within the human body, okay? And will sink to the lowest depth imaginable, where they become shackles that bind this world. Okay. So that gets deeper. You know, it's deep, because even these things here that you collect for fighting, they have this grand thing going on. It's very interesting. See, they go and they become the shackles. See, that's a key word right there. Shackles that bind this world. So here you got the dread. Here you got the vertebrae shackles, right? And a special bone collected by members of the covenant of the mound makers discover the corpse of their victims. Only one such bone is found in the vertebrae. Okay. Only one such is bound. So each victim is another connection in addition to the family. See, even though when you go, right, you go and you go to this spot and you see, you know, Podrick and all of these skulls and the Covenant, you go, this is some real morbid shit. Like, this shit is morbid. This shit is like, what is this, right? And you know, sometimes, you know, you gotta do things a little different to get different things done. You know, you see a certain process going in a certain direction and you know it's not working and you're trying your best and you're doing your all. You go, yo, this something has to come and something has to change. I don't know if this is what they know they're calling to be as, you know, members of this particular type of guild, mound makers. And that name alone I have to think about, because it's not equaling to anything in my mind. Right now it's just a name, but the name even has a level of significance. So when we're talking about these vertebrae shackles being the only bone such found in the vertebrae, and the mound makers believe it to be the shackle of the gods, which means that here is where the gods are keeping you tied down to this vessel. Okay? In their minds, each victim is another connection in addition to the family. So here you got Velka collecting souls over here, and you got Gwen making the ultimate sacrifice to sacrifice himself, right? His sacrifice is technically one of the greatest. Why? Because, well, look how many people. Hold on. Let me just start this right now. Oops. No. And that's what I'm doing. He's jumping on. It doesn't matter. It does matter. I'd like to show you jump on. Nobody jumping on tonight. So the vertebrae shackles. Yeah, somebody should come on tonight. If they get bored, they'll jump on. So in their minds, each victim another connection in addition to the family. Yeah, they would be, wouldn't they? Being that everybody's being shackled. Because what Gwen did, he put a seal on people. Those who are able to pass away and continue to be dead, they pass on. Lucky them, right? But for those who keep waking up and having to live in the same flesh and bone and never truly get any sleep, maybe they do get sleep. You know, maybe that's why they need to be put in a casket in the earth so that they never wake up. You know, because they'll always see darkness, so just be like they're living in darkness. And if they ever try to awaken from the dead, they're not making it out of those coffins, because the coffins are downright sealed into the ground, you know, or whatever. Like, why don't you just want to be cremated? You know, so that way you know you're not coming back like in that flesh anymore. Anyway, I'm going too deep. So, the waist area. So very important. Um, that's where the soul drag goes to. Sink to the lowest depths imaginable in your pelvic region. Dregs are the heaviest things in the human body, where they become shackles that bind this world. So, I think that's the connection between the two. You know, and every time the mouth makers beat somebody down, they take a piece, they take their vertebrae, so that they can collect all of those souls who are bound to still come back after they're dead and get no sleep. Let me give you some sleep. You know? So at the end of the day, he's doing it in his way. Joining that covenant was probably a level of service, greater service and sacrifice, not just for a cause of a cause of you know, of Gwen. Oh yeah, these guys need to go on their journey to rekindle the fire, so the age of fire lasts, right? And then before that, Lloyd is getting his own situations, and all of his situations are happening at the same time. Well, before Gwen, but he started it with the dragons, apparently, or something. The darkness may have infested the kingdom, if you will. I'm still, like I said, I'm still putting it all together. You know, that's all I'm doing. I'm just putting it all together. So, you know, I already know when everything is where it should be all together, it's gonna make complete sense. And that's what I'm doing as I'm going along in this game, because it makes it easier when you can look at the items and the item descriptions and read them. That's what I've been doing as I go through the game now. So really, you know, Hodrick is really doing a favor, a bigger favor, because he's like, no, the souls, you know, they're here, and they should live forever, but they should live forever without having to turn old or die and then have to be resurrected in the same flesh. Like, that's not fair. While you guys just continue to live and live, and the only way they live and live is if, well, they have the energy to do so, and they need souls too. They need souls too. But they don't talk about that. They don't talk about that these gods are not, you can die. You can die. You know, you can die. You will. You know, well, not really. You don't have to. But the way they put gods in the game is that they need to rely on souls. Souls is where the power is at. You know, and they, you know, I remember one of the guys inside from the Legion, right, was talking about how there's a road that led from, I think it was the undead settlement to the church, or not the church, or to somewhere else, or to the back of I don't know if it's the cathedral or something else. I don't know. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I'm uncovering, and a lot of stuff that I can really use some additional information on, if you guys know what I mean. Because I'm putting it all together, man. There's a whole lot of stuff that was going on in this game. So, Special Bone collect by members of the Covenant of the Mal Makers, discovered in the corpse of their victims. So these guys are taking the souls for themselves, basically, and bringing it to the mound makers, where Hodrick is at. And um, it's taking away the power from the gods, basically. What they're doing, because the soul is in the vertebrae, or the soul drag, and as it says in the description, it says prove through. Okay, no, skip that. Dregs are the heaviest things within the human body, and will sink to the lowest depths imaginable, where they become shackles that bind to this world. And that's the whole thing. You see, it's no different. It's really not as different as something would be that's like, look at this. No unkindle ever truly blah blah blah. It says claim that the ember that burns within the champion's bosom, which is precisely what makes their yearning for warmth so keen. Okay, so anyway, let me just move on from that. I didn't need that. I only read it because it looked similar to what that is. But truly, the information is here. Sorcery, Archdeacon Royce and his deacons, okay, said to have imparted to them by McDonald of the Boreal Valley, fires soul, dark soul dregs, souls which swell from the deep. From the deep of what? Pursue their targets, drawn towards life. It draws towards life, okay? This type of sorcery, okay? But you're fires dark soul drags, okay? And I don't know, if you're drawing upon your own power when you do this, you're drawing out you're pulling from the darkness that's within inside of you. Souls which swell within the deep pursue their targets, draws towards life. So it basically sucks, the life out of other people. And the more you learn how to pull from your dark energy inside, the more it gets bigger and it gets bigger, and before you know it, you're doing stuff that can cause more problems in the world than anything else. Look at this. A sorcery that fires a great dread soul. Okay, look at that. A great one. And the bigger it is, the more damaging it is, but it can hurt you. It's just there to suck your life. That have stewed for ages far within the deep, right? This sorcery is the highest form of deep soul. Some of the merkmen who raise from the depths are possessed by soul drags. Okay, soul drags. Which one would we consider soul drag? So this is deep soul, right? This is soul. This is a great soul drag. So I mean, are they both the same? Even though this one says soul drag and this one says deep soul, I would say that, because that one's just a great soul drag, and this is just a regular soul drag. And instead of just calling it a soul drag, they called it a deep soul drag. That puts a little twist on it, but at the end of the day, what are we reading here? It says soul which swells from the deep. So so it's a soul that comes from the deep. Okay, over here, it says a sorcery fires dark soul drag. Again, dark soul drag, and this one is a soul, no less. Even though they put that difference there, fires dark soul drags. See, it says fires dark soul drags, and over here it says great dark soul drags. So here you got sorceries that can fire these, right? That have stewed for ages and far within the deep. Far within the deep. Okay? This sorcery is the highest form of deep soul. some of the merkmen who rise from the depths are possessed by soul dregs, which have grave likeness to human form. Okay? Okay? So they have a grave likeness for human form. That's something you would consider almost like a demon. So it's like it wants the body so it can live. It's always looking for some way to enter a body to live. And the merkmen, oh man, some merkmen will rise from the depths or possessed by them. So any merkmen that rises from most, let's just say the majority, are possessed by soul dregs. Sad, man. Sad. Because their vessel becomes hollow. So that's kind of sad in a way, because it's like whatever these lovers, they turning up to be undead. And here's the undead aspect of them, you know, that is gonna keep walking, and then here comes demon, or here comes a soul drag coming from the deep, jump into the body and use it for its own. A forbidden dark sorcery, of course, is forbidden, right? And it says, cast a dark manifestation of humanity. And this is humanity. These souls, basically. But here it says, cast dark manifestations of humanity. It's a dark sorcery. Why would humanity be a dark substance? Why would it be a dark substance, humanity? Right? It appears to be an expression of envy or perhaps love towards another that will tenaciously pursue its target, even if so like many human desires. It amounts to nothing but misfortune. Ain't that shit the truth? Getting away from my fortune now, misfortune now. Even if like so many human desires, it amounts to nothing but misfortune, yo. It amounts to nothing but misfortune. So that's just what it is. I mean, I would imagine so. They're all looking for a body, and many human desires. It amounts nothing but to misfortune. So here they are, casting dark souls all over the earth, people who passed away, or demonic, or whatever you want to call them. They cast into the bodies, and love pursues another like tenacious pursuit its target. Even if it like so many human desires, it amounts to nothing but misfortune. Yeah. And they get into a human body, and that's another misfortune right there, because that's just more desire for more things. A forbidden dark sorcery says, strike you with the blade formed from humanity's darkness. Humanity, so, wow. So it says a forbidden dark sorcery, strike with a blade formed from humanity's darkness. Pass from mother to daughter. This blade was intended for both projection and as a means of taking one's own life. The young girl never swung it more than once. So, I mean, mean, obviously that's gonna have something for me to look upon, right? But sorcery, how can this be a sorcery, right? Where you are drawing upon the energy inside of you to come out. Just to fire at something. You have something, you have these, right? But they don't necessarily follow the target. These follow their target, which means they're drawn to life. So they're gonna go right to where the life is at, that they're being pushed towards. You know? It's kinda hard to dodge sometimes. You know, so that makes sense why they move. And, you know, you want to take, you know, how you want to hit somebody up a notch. This is definitely a way to ensure that it's going to hit. But at the cost of creating a dark soul within your magic, it's pretty wild. A forbidden dark sorcery casts a dark manifestation of humanity. And love towards one another. This is pursuit. Even if, like so many human desires, it amounts to nothing but misforce. Yeah, back to that again. So anyway, so they can end up dibble and dabble back into their own stuff, right? That turns bad, right? When they try to go, well, what they feel is like a step up from what they would normally be doing. And these things shoot fast and straight, you know, just fast and straight. You know, then you want to get more intelligence involved. Now we're talking about dregs. Okay? You ask me what came first. You know, I'll tell you. You know, I would definitely be like, yo, you know what? If I was to summon these and just learn how to control how they're gonna move around and where they would go, yeah, I'd do it. And it would be these homing soul masks. Sorcery developed by Big Had Logan, the great sorcerer who left the dragon school in the age of long past, releases a homing soul mask. All right. In the dragon school, I mean, obviously you learn how to take from that fire in you. This sorcery may offer a clue to what Logan saw, but further investigation suggests it's attracted to living things. Mirrors the nature of the dark. Yeah, it mirrors the nature of the dark. And being that you're calling it a soul mass, massive amount of souls in one place, perhaps, if you will, and you just put the nice little homing in front of it, you know, just to tell you exactly what these balls of soul mass are gonna do. They're gonna chase you down like a dreg. But the way this type of magic was created, it was made to mask the dark with something light. Big Hat Logan was probably responsible for that, being that he developed it. It says developed by him, right? Because how do you get them so bright when they were so dark? Right? So, as you can see, you know, Big Hat Logan was definitely doing a lot. And when I say he was doing a lot, I'm saying that he was in part 1. He almost died in part 1. And when you find him in here, you don't find him in here. You don't find him in there. He dies in part 1, I believe, and turns into some sort of phantom of some sort. I'm not even sure no more. But I can assure you that, you know, he started dabbling into the dark arts before anybody. And then when he came across that crystal,
that might have just made it worse too. That crystal ball, you know. We're like, sorry, I'm sorry, folks. I'm like yawning and stuff, but it's because I've been up for a while and I've just been. I think like everybody, we're just kind of going through these great things, these good things that are helping us become better people in life. You know, we are doing what we need to do to move forward, regardless to what. You know, we're growing up. You know. So here. So yeah. I mean, you know, I'm the investigator at this point, and it's like from what I see here, sorcery developed by Big Hat Logan. You see, first off, they're saying that he created it. There's a lot of people following behind him too, you know, and it was him, and he also was rocking with another sorceress that was young, that came with him, which was his apprentice in part one. And you talk to him, and he's the first person that you start buying stuff from before you find Logan all locked up, because he's trying to get in so that he can learn about the different types of sorceries or and whatnot throughout Dark Souls 1. So those might, you know, they could have been the twin crystal guys, and you just happen to come across. I don't know which one would be which. I mean, you would imagine Big Hat Logan would be the boss fight one, and the one that you find in the Grand Archives would be his apprentice. You know. I don't know. I'm still trying to unravel who who convinced the child Lothric to change his mind. Is it important? I mean, it's important if you want to know what's going on, so that the game makes sense to you. That's just what's expected, you know. But I believe Logan, he went too far in his discoveries in magic, and it clearly states it right there at the bottom. Attracts to living things, mirrors the nature of the dark. You can't get no more descriptive than that. And here, basically, it's more crystallized, so obviously it does more damage, right? Releases homing crystal soul mass. It's a crystal soul mass, has piercing qualities. According to crystal sages, old Big Hat achieved enlightenment within the regal archives, where he came to find the quintessence of sorcery in the facets of a certain crystal. Okay. Now that takes us off course a little bit, because we're like, well, what is this crystal ball? What is this? Oh, excuse me. What is this crystal, right? And we don't know what the crystal is. It's not like we see him with the crystal, right? Because the only thing we do see is something that looks like a witch doctor with a big witch hat, like, right? And basically is wielding a crystal ball. Both of them, in fact, had crystal balls, and they were using that, which, you know, I don't recall the last time I saw a wizard with a crystal ball, whereas they're supposed to have magic wands, or maybe just do it with their hands. But it's a rare thing to see it, because when you do see it, you see it with a woman, and she's the one that's telling the future and doing mystic stuff, but not
not for casting spells and stuff like that. And it's not to say that they can't. Uh, they're good conduits if I guess if you know how to use crystal balls. And shoot the energy in and out of them, you know, whatever you're gonna do, because it's probably just gonna magnify. Um, so, um, according to the crystal sages, okay, old Big Hat achieved enlightenment within the regal archives, where he came to find the quintessence of sorcery, okay, and the faucets of a certain crystal, okay. So that maybe that crystal told him something. So you know, it didn't have to be a crystal ball, right? I mean, that was the first thing we thought of, you know, and then maybe he saw it like in a regular crystal and then turned it into a ball that he can carry around, right? When he came to the quintessence of sorcery and faucets of a certain crystal. So, you know, let's move on to the next until we can get to certain items, because then I'm gonna end up doing a whole case on that. Okay, a unique sorcery developed by extraordinary preacher twins known as the Crystal Sage. Okay, extraordinary preacher twins. Preacher twins. Preacher. What are they saying? That they worked in the church? You know, when we look at the Grand Archives, somebody broke in that bitch from the side in which that knight is standing there by himself at the cliff. Something busts through that part. You can see it from the way the bricks are laid out. Well, what ran inside? Two things got inside. This one of the crystal sages, and the second one was not Aldrich. I forgot this guy. His name Pontiff. One of his deadly knights got inside and is in one of the rooms. You know? But I digress. So let me go over here for a second. So it says the twins, preacher twins, known as crystal sages. Preacher twins. Cast a cascade of small crystal soul mass from above. Crystal soul mass having piercing qualities. In a pack said to have been formed long ago. One of the sages allies with the undead legion in order to train sorcerers of Farron. In pack said to have been formed long ago. One of the sages allied with the undead legion in order to train the sorcerers of Farron. See, this is what I mean by one story leading to another. And I end up doing one type of investigation for one thing, and then I end up finding some stuff out, and then it's like back on the move again in another direction. So I'm gonna deal with that later. I'm gonna definitely go deal with that later. And when I mean later, I mean the whole thing about these sages allying with the undead legion, because that's the second time I read a description where they talk about them making a pact with the legion and so forth. I mean, they had the gurus on their side making certain types of powders. So
Hmm. Just giving that some thought, that whole ordeal. Because, yeah, sages, they allied with the undead legion. And it's like, who's the undead legion? It's like they're keeping them at bay. Are they? Are they keeping them at bay? If they go around the world and just start hacking and slacking at everything they think that's dark. I mean, their whole thing is to do that anyway. You know? They're supposed to take out anything that seems bad for the world, I guess. And when I think about it, they would definitely hack and slack a lot of different places, people, So, because they're mindless, I guess, in a way. They just keep coming back after a while, and they just listen to orders. This is what I want you to do. So like more vicious and more vicious and more vicious and more vicious. What did I create? Developed by. So they made a pact with them, and it's like, all right. So they made a pact with them, and it's basically, when you say sages, we're talking about what? We're talking about going from regular magical projectiles to crystal projectiles to putting magic on weapons, to using it to make ourselves walk quietly so we're not being heard, doing echo sounds, doing magic shields, which only increases the physical attacks, deflection, turning your weapon frozen. That's cool, because to me that's like the highest point of turning it into a mist. That's when things start to go a little array. You cast light with it, you can do repair, and then there's pulling the energy from a different direction, or wherever you want to call it. You don't really want to put your mouth on nobody, so you kind of just turn around. What the fuck? Too close, man. So, and I was just thinking about things compressed in a different way, like how I really want to explain this to you, and how it needs to be explained. It's sidetracked. Anyway, trust what I'm telling you. So, this whole thing here, let me see. So yeah, so things go left. You still learn, let's go. And let's check it out. So when I said go inside, I meant like this is all outside. This is gonna go inside now. So now we're dealing with pyromancy. Pyromancy is basically Nintendo, intelligence and wisdom. So both go hand in hand when it comes down to dealing with these type of things.